Okay, so Bezras Hashem, we are back in the Zohar HaKadosh, in the schus of Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar Brei, V'chol HaTanoim HaKadoshim, V'chavar Kadisha, B'schus Raya Mehemna, Moshe Rabbeinu, and all the tzaddikim hamitim b'dareinu, B'frat, tzaddik Yisod Olam, Shenikvar B'kever, Kadoshim Asher Ba'aretz Hema, V'adir Kochav Sebam, Rabbi Nachman ben Fega, Nachman Levi Makor Chochma, Schus Yagan Aleinu, B'schus the Gra, the Ramchal, the Rashash, all the tzaddikim of Lubavitch, and all the tzaddikim, Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, v'chulei, and all of us. Bereshis, in the beginning, the entire Zohar is coming to darshan the word Bereshis, as we see in the Tikkunei Zohar, because the entire notion is how to begin again in every moment, how to move from Yeyosh into hope, how to move from an end into a new beginning, Be'ezras Hashem, over and over and over, reinterpreting the same thing. Rabbi Eliezer Pasach, Rabbi Eliezer opened up his mouth, Pasach Picha V'Yud Varech, in the times of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the world was saturated to such a degree that all it took was to open one's mouth, and immediately the breath itself was transformed into the most beautiful Torah, into the most beautiful prayer. And so Rabbi Elazar Pasach, not to mention the fact that the book of the Zohar is ultimately a book of love, because Rabbi Shimon is always with Rabbi Elazar. It's a book of the love between a father and a child, between a husband and a wife. Rabbi Elazar Pasach, Rabbi Elazar opens up his mouth and he says, raise your eyes on high and perceive who has created these. Raise your eyes upwards. La'an eser, but to where? And again, this leading question that the Zohar HaKadosh is asking us, like we saw in the beginning, is Shoshana v'is Shoshana. The motif of the Zohar is that you need to look twice. You need to look twice in order to see the beauty, because if you become satisfied with the first vision, you're done. There's no hope whatsoever. It's specifically when we choose to look twice. It's like the Re'ei Ra'inu by Yitzchak Avinu. It's the doubled vision that Rav Simcha Bunim says. If you look first at Yitzchak, it appears ugly, it appears scary, but it's only when you take a double take that it begins to be revealed that that's where the blessing comes from. Su'umma Romeinechem. Raise your eyes on high, La'an Eser, but to where? Ultimately, the Zohar is leading us. It wants us to do something, but it doesn't give us a destination yet. It wants us to linger in that not knowing. Where should we raise our eyes? Let us raise our eyes to that place where all eyes are dependent upon, where all eyes are turned towards. Umanihu, and where is this place? Pasach Einayim. This is the place of the opening of the eyes. The opening of the eyes. So the Meforshim have a question on this. There is no such place referred to as the opening of the eyes. We find it by Yehuda and Tamar, but in truth, there's no place of the opening of the eyes. Elama, the opening of the eyes is where I'm looking towards. I'm looking towards the possibility of my own eyes opening. All eyes look towards that singular place of Malchus Kadisha, where Hashem gives us the ability to open our eyes to see from within the closed eyes that are so terrified of this world. V'teiman tindun dahai sotim atika dekaim l'sheila. And if you search above and you look upwards, you'll come to understand the high sosim atika dekaim l'sheila. There is a certain ancient concealment. When I raise my eyes above, there is an ancient concealment. There is an unknowing. There is a recognition that I don't know anything at all. But it's not a complete and utter ignorance that doesn't give me any access to this unknowability. Ella, it's a sasim atika dekaima l'she'ela. It's an unknowability that has a relationship to questioning, meaning to say that our approach to this place of where our eyes should be rooted, su'umaro menechem, is to the place of questioning that doesn't necessarily have an answer. It's a questioning that doesn't have an answer, not because the question is so great, but because the answer is so ancient that it can't provide and it can't reveal itself fully yet. And when we look up to that place of Atika, the Kaima L'Sha'ela, that is appropriately questioned, Bara Ela, then we have the ability to understand that that is what has created Ela, that is what has created these. Me creates Ela. Ela is the gematria of 36. It's 6 times 6. It represents the 6 days of the week. It represents the 6 sides of reality, the 6 sides of spatiality. That revealed world that we access, that Vak, the Chesed, Gvura, Tferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus that we have access to, it comes from someplace. Where does the revealed world come from? Where does all the difficulty that we see come from? It comes from a place called Me. It comes from a place called Mi Bara Ela, which the Zohar HaKadosh is saying, which Rabbi Elazar is saying, is a Sasim Matika. It's an ancient concealment, but nevertheless, it's an ancient concealment that is susceptible, and one has the ability to question it. Umani, who, where is the source of Ela? Where is the source of everything. It's me. It's the osios of me. It's the question of who. When a person cries out who, we're already orienting ourselves towards a relationship with something that is not yet present or accessible at hand. It's a knowledge that there's a relationship. It's a knowledge that there's something to grab hold of, but it's still under the guise of who, because I don't know yet. This me bara ela, this light of bina, this ascendant place of Yovel and freedom and everything being transformed into good is referred to as me, and that's referred to as the Ketza Hashamayim La'ela. It's the ascendant limit of above. That is the place that our eyes are able to look towards. The Kula Kaime B'Reshuse, because everything comes down and everything is rooted in that place. Eim Habanim Smecha. This is what we did on Sukkot in preparation for what we're doing right now, is associating ourselves with Bina, which is Ima, which is the womb, which is when we find ourselves stuck and we find ourselves being born into a world that we don't want to be born into, where we're no longer learning Torah from the Malach, but rather we're hearing what we hear and we're seeing what we see. At that point, the person has to recognize that everything is totally in the reshus of the Mi Ha'elyon. The Mi Ha'elyon is ultimately just the ketza, the edge of what we can begin to understand of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates to us. V'al dekaima l'sha'ela. V'al dekaima l'sha'ela. The ihu b'oirich sasim. But nevertheless, in spite of the fact that this me, this place of bina, this place of the source of all gevura, which is sweetened in its root, even though it's inaccessible, it still stands at the ready to question it, meaning we have permission to question and to try and gain access to this place, in spite of the fact that we know that we can't gain access to it. V'ihu ba'oirich sasim v'loi iskalia. And it operates by way of a hidden pathway that is not revealed. But again, in the Zohar Kadosh, this hiddenness and this concealment is obviously not absence, but rather it's a new way of presence. It's revealed it's revealed in a path of concealment. It's revealed in a way of non-revelation. V'lo iskalia. It's revealed by way of not being revealed. Ikri mi. It's referred to as me. It's a relational orientation towards the fact that Rabbeinu Shalom, I have no idea what's going on, but I know that there is a creator that I can have a relationship to. Because above that, above the me, above bina, by chachma, by keser, by or ein sof, we have no access other by way of the gate of me, of the sha'arim of me. The nun shari bina give us access to begin to ask those questions, but above there we have no ability to even ask. So bina is the ability to ask in spite of the fact that we know that there's no answers, but above bina there's no possibility of answering bichlal. V'hai ketza hashamayim ikra mi, and this limit of the shamayim is referred to as me, because when I look up to the loftiest place, in the end of the day, all I'm asking is, Rabbeinu Shalom, where are you? 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 What is the relationship? How are you and where are you? V'is asra letata v'ikrama. And if you think that the upper ascendant edge of what we have access to is referred to as me, then there's another edge, there's another lip of limitation, which is referred to as ma, as what. So the Zohar Kadosh is orienting us to the fact that to be a yid in this world is to simply do one of two things: to ask the question of me, or to ask the question of ma, to ask the question of who, or to ask the question of what. We begin with the question of who. We begin with Hashem, where are you? How are you? What are you? Who are you? And in that place, in spite of the fact that we are continuously searching and assaulting the border and the boundary to find an answer, we ultimately come to that place of ma. In the end of the day, I will not have an answer. It's totally in bittul. Ma bein hai lahai ela kodma stima'od ikrami kaima l'sha'ela. Kivan de sha'el barnash umafashpesh ve'estakla lemin the midarga ledarga ad sof kol dargan. Kivan de mati teiman ma yadata ma estakalsa ma papashta ha kulam sasim kadmisa. The Zohar Kadosh is already giving us the medicine that we need. What's the difference between me and ma? What's the difference between the attempt to understand the who of how we relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and this question of the what in terms of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates with the world? That when it comes to me, when it comes to who, at least we have this notion of questionability. We can begin to question, who are you, Hashem? Where are you? How are you relating to me in this moment? How are you relating to Klal Yisrael in this moment? But at the very same moment, we have to come to terms with the fact that any question of me has to ultimately come back to the recognition that all I can ask is ma. Kivan d'sha'il barnash, because we've asked the question, umafashvesh le'istakla, and we've put in the effort to look upwards, leminda ledarga, and to understand and to know from level to level, ad sof kol dargin, to the fullest degree of our capacity of knowing, to the end of all levels. Kivan d'mati teman, when we come to the limit, ma. The only thing we have any accessibility to is ma, is the what. It's the recognition that I can't even begin to ask the question of who, because I know absolutely nothing. I don't even know enough to orient myself towards asking who. All I can ask is what, because what is the source of emuna. It's manhu. It's b'ma'eda. Like Avram Avinu asks, how am I going to know? And this ma'eda of Avram Avinu is the goyrim to the kilkul. It's a kilkul and emuna that causes the gullus of Mitzrayim, but at the very same point, it's the answer to coming out of Mitzrayim, of asking ma, of afal pisha yitmameya. Yitmameya is ma and ma. There's a double nature of ma. I ask over and over, ma, what is it? What is it? And I come ultimately to the recognition that ma yadata, ma istakalsa, ma papashta. What have you come to know? What have you come to see? What have you come to examine? Hakula sasim kibekadmisa. Everything is as concealed as it was in front of you even a moment before. Al Raza Dana. With regards to this secret, Raza, the Tzaddik can point out, is Gematria Yitzchak, because when it comes to Yitzchak, it's all about the secret, because Yitzchak appears to be Din and Gvura, but it's specifically by Yitzchak that Avimelech has to say Ra'ei Ra'inu, because if you look at Yitzchak just with one Ra'iyah, you see ugliness. But if you look at Yitzchak with a double take of Ra'ei Ra'inu, then you come to understand how the Gvura gives birth to the sweetest secrets in the world. Va'araza Dana Ksiv, Ma Yadech, Ma Edamelach. The ultimate truth that in the end of the day, after all of our questionability, after all of our searching out of the Rabbeinu Shalom, after all of our searching out to understand anything, we come to the recognition of ma iyadach, ma adamelach. What can I possibly testify upon you with, or what can I possibly begin to imagine you with? Meaning to say, it highlights the limitation, the maness of us. Anachnu ma, we have nothing. Kad is chariv be mikdasha, nafik kalav amar ma iyadich, ma adamelach. In the times of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, and each Yid is a Beis HaMikdash, and anytime a Yid is in pain or scared or hurt, God forbid. And again, anything we're talking about in this Zohar Kadosh is not about the Kedoshim and the Tahirim who we can only hope in the entirety of our lives to come to the ankles of what their schus is, but in terms of our schus, what it means for the chai to be yoten alivam, we have to understand that in the time that the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, when a yid sees a separation between guf and nefesh, when a yid sees a separation between what is revealed and what is concealed, at that point, what we're asking ourselves is, ma iyadech, ma adamelach, how am I going to potentially testify to you? How am I going to compare myself to you in the times that the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed? B'chol yuma v'yuma, each and every day, is hadis bach miyumin kadmoyin dechsev ha'idoisi b'chem hayoim es hashamayim ve'es ha'aretz. That each and every day, in spite of the fact that the Beis HaMikdash is not created, in spite of the fact that it's still destroyed, we are at least testifying to you, Rabbanu Shalom, with the recognition that we have no idea how to testify to you. It's only ma uma edamelach. And how are we going to compare ourselves to you? What can we potentially even begin to do to find any comparison to you? Bahahu gvan mamish itaris lach beitrin kadishin avidas lach shultuna al amla dechsev hazois ha'ir shayomer klilas yoifi karina lach Yushalayim habnuya kiir shacharbala. The Zohar Kadosh is creating a very, very therapeutic relationship here. It's saying, in spite of the fact that the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, and in spite of the fact that the only testimony that we can provide for the light of the Rabbanu Shalom in our lives is is not knowing anything whatsoever, at least we can acknowledge that this not knowing whatsoever is mamish the very same way that the Rabbanu Shalom relates to us. Because the Yerushalayim down here, which is destroyed, the Yerushalayim down here, which is under assault, the Yerushalayim down here, which is struggling, where we have no ability to testify to anything. In the end of the day, what we recognize is that this Shayomer Klilas Yofi, this town of Yerushalayim that you said is going to be so beautiful, Yerushalayim Habnuya Ki Ir Shacharbalo, Ir Shacharbali Yachtov, that there's a Yerushalayim Shalmala and there's a Yerushalayim Shalmata. Is Sheshana is Sheshana. There's two ways of looking. Yes, you can look at Yerushalayim Shalmata and say, oh my goodness, there's nothing to know, there's nothing to see, there's nothing to believe in. But ultimately, when we recognize that we're still stuck in that place of not knowing anything, at that point we realize that, you know what, just as we're suffering down here, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kavyachol is operating with Shchinta Begalusa, and he's operating in the same place of homelessness. And Zot the Zohar HaKadosh, that Ir Shachar B'Liyachtov, Ma Eshavelach, where is the Shivayon going to come from? Where is this equanimity and the equality going to come from? Kegavna Da'ant Yasva Hachi Hu Kavyachol Ela. Just as you, Klal Yisrael, are sitting down here below without any access, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sitting above. Kegavna Deloy Iyalin Hashdabach Amma Kadisha Besidra Kadishin Hachi Umnelecha Deloy Eyel Ana Le'eyel Ad Eilin Bach Uchlasach Letata V'da Ihu Nechamadila Chayil Dedargad. that we recognize that just as Knesset Yisrael find themselves stuck, just as Knesset Yisrael find themselves excluded from the Beis Hamikdash, stuck in a place of ma adiacha, ma ashavelach, I know nothing and I can't have any access to you, Ribono Shel Olam. At that moment when we can contemplate our questioning, our confusion, we can realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Keviyachol is going through the very same homelessness and the very same homesickness and the very same questioning. V'da'ihu nechama, and this is a source of comfort because at least we're equal with the Ribono Shel Olam at this moment. V'hashta the antacha gadol kiyam shebrecha, and as a result of the fact that you are operating in that place, gadol kiyam shebrecha, v'itema deleis l'cha kaima v'asvasa. And what would happen if a yid would chas v'shalom come and wonder, maybe there's not going to be an answer to this question of ma, maybe there's not going to be something that gives me the strength, maybe there's not going to be something that gives me the permission to believe that things will continue. Zok the pasuk umi yirapelach. Me, this questioning, this searching out of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in spite of the fact that we know we can't find him, is going to be the very source of the refuah. Vadai hahu dargas tima'a iloid kula kaima be yirapelach v'yukimlach. It's certain that that light of bina, that shirish of the gar, that shirish of chachma bina and das of keser of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, in spite of all appearances to the opposite, certainly that's going to be the place where refuah comes from, where redemption comes from. Me ketza shamayim la'ela, me, that questionability of looking towards the Ribono Shel Olam and realizing that I have no ability to know anything is the upper ascendant place that my mind can reach. Uma v'ad ketza hashamayim latata, and ma, that limit point where I come to recognize that I know absolutely nothing and all I have is emunah, is going to protect me on the bottom as well. V'da Yaris Yaakov di'u mavrich min ketza ela ketza, and this is mamish what Yaakov Avinu received from Avram and Yitzchak, because he extends himself from above to below. Like we spoke about yesterday, the koyach of Yesoid, the koyach of the secret, is that it's true above and it's true below. That innermost point that exists within each and every person. Min ketza kadma di'u mi ela ketza basra di'u ma, from the upper ascendant point of me, which is where I orient myself towards realizing that Hashem, as much as I'm trying to know you, as much as I'm trying to see you, I come up empty-handed because I can't know you. But that doesn't negate the value of questioning where you are, because the questioning is how I access the bina. And then I come back after the questioning to that place of ma, to that place of malchus, which reminds me of tachlis hayadiyah shalei neda, and whatever I can ever come to know, I can have absolutely no idea of knowing anything whatsoever other than the fact that I don't know anything, and falling back on that emuna. Min haketza ela ketza, ve'alda mi bara'ela. And this is what the pasuk says, mi bara'ela, me, the shirish of me, of who, that radical questioning, in spite of the fact that we know that there's no answer, is what gives birth to Eila, meaning Eila is the revealed world, 6 times 6, 36, it's the 6 days of the week, the vak, what we see in externalized reality. All of that which is revealed is rooted and dependent upon the me, which is unrevealed, which means that everything we see needs to be understood with the fact that at the inner interiority of it all, there is absolutely no understandability to it, and all that we have is emuna and the she'ela, the koyach of she'ela, the koyach of kanha ben shoyal, the koyach of gulas mitzrayim, which is the or ha-she'ela, as the Sodi Sharm says, that when I realize that I can ask without needing an answer, so then the asking becomes the tefillah. Like Rabbi Nachman says, that kasha is rosh teva shma Hashem koyli ekra, that when I ask a kasha, I'm screaming out to your Ribono Shel Olam. Every time I come in contact with a difficulty, every time I come in contact with the fact that the world is shaking, that the foundations of the world are shaking, I can fall back upon the fact that I can at least ask the question of where are you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amar Rabbi Shimon responds to this drasha of his son, Rav Elazar Bray, the secret of connectivity. Elazar beni, Elazar my son, pasuk milach v'yasgala stima derazet ilah debnei alma lo yadanan. Pasuk milach, your words have revealed a hidden secret that the world has not known. Shatich Rav Elazar. Rav Elazar was silent. All of these moods, all of these motivations, all of these gestures can be spoken about for hours and hours. Rabbi Elazar speaking, Rabbi Shimon praising him for speaking, Rabbi Elazar being silenced. Bacha Rabbi Shimon cries, the crying in response to the question. V'koyim riga, and he stood up for a moment. Again, the tzaddikim say you have to darshan every movement, every phenomenological gesture of a yid in this world is like the Chavraya Kadisha. Wait for a minute. Amar Rabbi Shimon. Elazar, my Eila, what is this Eila? So you just spoke so much about the me, you spoke about the unknowability of the Ribono Shel Olam and the fact that we have to continue questioning. But what is this, that unquestionable point of origin, what does it give birth to? My Eila, itema kachvaya umazala hayeschazen taman tadir. If you're talking about the celestial forces with which HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, the malachim, so then it's not such a question because that's always present. Ubama is bariu. Ubama is pariu. And what does this bama mean? Keda amart, bedavar Hashem shamayim naasu. I al milan stimen loy lichtoiv eile. The ha'eskalya ihu. If we're talking, Rabbi Shimon asks his son, if you're referring to something that is concealed, then why is the Zohar Kadosh using the word Eila? Because the word Eila implies the revelation of something. So it clearly can't be that it's something concealed. Ella raze da loy eskalya bar yumachad dahavinan al kef yom. Rather, this secret was revealed once upon a time when we were walking along the shores of the sea. Again, the Zohar HaKadosh is a book of love between Rabbi Shimon walking along the seashore with his son, Rabbi Elazar Brei, with crying and questioning and desire to find God in a world that appears to be absent from him in a moment, because the gift of the Zohar is to teach us over and over. So too, it turns out that you're a concealed God. The Malachim can't understand this. The book of the Zohar is written in Targum because the Malachim are disgusted by it, the Ramak says, because this secret of God's concealment is only the secret that the Jewish people get to understand. And it's dafka al kef hayam, it's dafka kef, which is a language of fun, but it's also lashon of an edge, because the kef hayam, as we understand, the insurgence of the sea, which seeks to destroy the world, is held back by the gvul hayam, gvul samta layam, and it's specifically there that we encounter this transmittability between the concealed and the revealed. Va'asa Eliyahu, and Eliyahu came along to Rabbi Shimon and said, Va'amar lei, Rabbi Adata Maihu Mi Bara Eile. Eliyahu came along, and Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Elazar saw him, and they asked the question, Rabbi, do you know what the secret of Mi Bara Eile is? What are these Eile? Aminale inan shmaya v'chalehoin uvda de kudshabrichu de islay lebarnash leistak lebahu ulebarchale. What Eila means is to look at the world as it is revealed, to find the good in the moment, to find the light, and to find the blessing. Dechsiv ki eresh shamecha ma'aseh etzbaisecha Hashem Adonenu ma'adir shimcha b'chol haaretz. That a person can contemplate all of the world. Etzbaisecha, like we said yesterday in the first part of the Hakdama, the 5 etzbaos are the kois shel bracha, the 5 gvuros, the manspach, the 5 alin kashan that hold up the rose. That's the place of hamtakas adinim. We can look at the world as the handiwork of his etzba, and we can come to understand that Hashem Adonenu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our master, ma'adir shimcha b'chol haaretz. How powerful is your name in all of the land. Amrle Rebbe Milas Tima'a Have Kaima Kutsha Barichu V'Gali B'Mesifta Ilah V'Dahu. Eliyahu Hanavi responds, and he says there is a concealed word that was revealed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Mesifta Ilah, and this is it. B'Shaisa the Stima the Kolstimen Ba'il Iskalya Ovid Beresha Nakuda. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the stima de kol stimin, the concealed of all concealment, wanted to reveal himself, what he did at first was create a tiny infinitesimal dot, nekuda chada, one tiny dot that contains the infinite in it, v'dasalik lemeheve machshava, and that dot, that impossible point of information, began to emerge as a thought. Sayur ba kol tziyurin chakak ba kol galifin ve'isgalif by butzina kadisha stima gilufa dechad tziyura stima kadish kadishin banaya amiga denafik migoy machshava ve'ikrimi shirusa lebenyana. Eliyahu Hanavi says that in truth what this pasuk means is it's not talking about the incomprehensibility of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's role in this world. It's talking about the incomprehensibility of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. In the beginning, it created with a tiny infinitesimal dot, that simtsum, and there was no accessibility to that dot until the machshava began to create siurim chakak b'kol galifu. It created boundaries of engravings, columns of thought, boy butzina kadisha, within that profoundly holy flame that was concealed. Gelufa chada tzira, there was a singular engraving that was engraved in its concealment, which is a secret of the Kodesh HaKadoshim Binyana Amika, a deep and embedded building, the Nafak Migoy Machshava, that emerged out of that thought, Be'ikra Mi Shirus Lebinyana, and it's referred to as Mi, which is the beginningness of creation, meaning to say this Nekuda Chada is Chachma, it's the Dail Hakima Beremiza, it's the Yud Elyon, and it's from that Yud that this engraving of the Gevuros emergent, which is the Or of Bina, which is the Or of Mi, which now gives birth to that which will come afterwards. Kaima V'loi Kaima, its existence and its not existent. Omik v'sasim b'shma, it's concealed and hidden in its name. Loi ikri elami, it's only referred to as me, of who, be'al isgalya liskari b'shmei, but it wants to be revealed and it wants to be called by its name, v'islabish b'levush yakar d'nohir, and it wants to garb itself within a beautiful garment that can reveal itself in the secret of Eila, those 6 sides of 6 by 6, which is 36, which is the gematria of Eila, ubara Eila v'salik Eila b'shma, and that Eila goes and it becomes the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's Chabran, Asvan, Ilin, Be'ilin, Ve'ishtalim, B'Shem, Eloikim. Now we take the Shem, me, Bara Ela, you have me, and you have Ela, you have me, which is the unfathomable source of all things, and Ela, which is the revealed element of all things. That gives birth to the Osios of Eloikim, which is the Chamisha Gvuros, which is the secret of Hamtakas Adinim B'Sharashim, which is the secret of the Hakdam of the Tikkun Zohar, which is Rav Chizkiah Pasach. Rav Chizkiah, as we said, is Chazak Yah. It's the secret of finding comfort within concealment. V'loi bara ela loi salik b'shmei Eloikim. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu were not to create the world, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu would not have ever been truly called the God of Israel. The kama de ishtatef mi ba'ela, and as long as we are able to connect me and Ela, as long as we are able to hold on to the revealed source of things and be aware that there's a hidden source and that the revealed does not operate on its own, God forbid, because the revealed operating on its own is a death-bringing experience. But when we connect that which is revealed and we connect it to that which is concealed, to the secret of me, to the secret of questioning, hachi hu shmei de ishtatef tatir. This is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is going to be revealed at all times. Uberazada is kaim alma, and this is the secret of how the world is going to be created. The parach Eliyahu v'loy chamin alei, and Eliyahu took off, and we didn't see him. Again, why is the Zohar Kadosh telling us that we didn't see him? We just focused on such a revelation. Elamah, the secret of the Zohar, is how to hold on to illumination and a revelation even after the fact that it leaves. The parach Eliyahu v'loy chamin alei, and we didn't see him. Umana yadana mila de ukmina al raza v'sitra delay. And we don't know how we're going to come and understand and stand upon the depths of his secrets. Rabbi Elazar and all of the Chavraya Kadisha, the friends and the love that existed between this fraternity of those who seek comfort in this world, they prostrated themselves in front of Rabbi Shimon. They prostrated themselves. There was a bittul gamur. There was an overwhelming love sickness that said, we need more of this. Bachu, they cried, v'amru, and they said, El malei asina la'alma ela mishma dadai. Had it not been that we only came to the world in order to hear this, it would have been enough. Now, there's something amazing in the Zohar Kadosh. You find this lashon all the time. El malei asina la'alma ela mishma dadai. Had we only come into the world to only hear this, it would have been enough. But it's never enough. They're not saying, we've heard this now and it's enough. They're saying, once I've heard this, it would have been enough, but it's never actually enough, because the secret of being a Yid is enough and not enough at the very same time. The awareness that I have what I need and the awareness that I'm completely unsatisfied at the very same time because I need more and more. Amr Rabbi Shimon answers, Aldo Shmaya v'chaleihun b'ma is pariud. And this is the secret of what Shamayim and all of its expansivity and all of its tools are built upon. Ki eresh Shamayim ma'aseh etzbosecha, we shall see the world in the actions of your hands. V'chsiv ma adir shimcha b'chol ha'aretz asher tnei hoidcha ala Shamayim. That when we look and contemplate the way that you created this world, Rabbeinu Shloim, it's always a question of ma adir shimcha. Ala Shamayim, ila salka b'shmei begin debara nehura lenehure v'islabish da b'da v'salik b'shma ilah v'alda b'reishis bara Eloikim da Eloikim ilah. That in the end of the day, when we come to contemplate the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates the world, the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu expresses himself in this world, ultimately we're going to come to a place of ma. But Ezra Hashem, tomorrow we're going to continue with Rabbi Shimon's continued conversation with his son Rabbi Lazar, and every word of the Zohar Kadosh and every Hisayrus of Tshuva that a person has, again, should go to the place that it needs to go. It should be placed in the place that it needs to be placed in order for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring Rachamim Rabbim to reveal everything that is good in this world.